The Constitution of India. Preamble. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact and give to ourselves this Constitution.
Happy morning, students. I hope you all are safe at home. Today we are going to have a class. We are going to begin the class with a small story. I hope you all like to hear stories just to boost up your mind, right? Just for a change. And the story begins like this. There were two cockroaches who were having fun all the time. They were with full energy, running everywhere, chasing each other. But the only difference was one cockroach was very optimistic, things always positive, was living in hope, and the other cockroach was a pessimistic who was living with despair. So one day what happened, when they were chasing each other, unexpectedly they fell into a pot of buttermilk. So when they were inside the pot, both were struggling for life. They were swimming continuously, putting on their legs continuously, but they couldn't hop out of the pot. So the pessimistic cockroach was very tired. So it started saying to itself that I have become tired and I don't think so like I can come out of the pot, and I know I am going to die. There is no hope for me. My legs have become tired, I can't swim anymore, it's become harder. So soon what happened? It got tired, it was not able to swim, and it went to the bottom of the pot, got drowned. But the other cockroach was very optimistic, so it started saying, I think I can swim more. I know in a few minutes I can hop out of the pot. Some miracle will happen which will make me let out of the pot very soon. Thinking this, the second cockroach started swimming harder. It started putting its legs harder to swim. Soon what happened? All the buttermilk, it just made as a heap of butter. The milk was churned and then it became as a heap of butter. And then this cockroach would climb on the heap and got escape of the pot. So this story is giving us a very good moral saying that nothing is impossible unless you don't give up. So children, I want to tell you that in life we get a lot of struggles, lot of obstacles. Always say thanks to God and try to become positive. Accept whatever comes to you and never give up. Challenges are always welcome in your life because each challenge will make you more stronger. So with this, for today's class, I would like to welcome Akshaya J, who is here with us to help us walk through the gas laws which was discussed in the previous class. She will now help us to learn about the properties of gas, Boyle's law and Charles' law. So are you all ready to welcome her children? Yes. So let's welcome Akshaya J.
Hi, I am Akshaya of 10B. In our last class, we discussed on the second chapter, gas laws and mole concept. In that chapter, we studied about the properties of gas. Each gas contains numerous minute molecules. When compared to the total volume of the gas, the real volume of the molecules is very less. The molecules of the gas are in the state of rapid random motion in all directions. As a result of the random motion of the gas molecules, they collide with each other and also collide with the walls of the container in which it is kept. This collision with the walls account for the pressure of a gas. As the collision of the gas molecules are perfectly elastic in nature, there is no loss of energy. There is no attractive force between the gas molecules and with the walls of the container. Variables of gas are volume, pressure and temperature. Volume of the gas is the volume of the container which it occupies. Force exerted per unit area is known as pressure. Temperature is an average kinetic energy of molecules in a substance. At a constant temperature, the volume of the definite mass of gas is inversely proportional to its pressure. If V is the volume and P is the pressure, then P into V is a constant. This is the law set by Robert Boyle, and this is Boyle's law. At a constant pressure, the volume of the definite mass of gas is directly proportional to the temperature in Kelvin scale. If V is the volume and T is the temperature, then V by T will be a constant. This is the law put forward by Jacques-Charles, and it is Charles' law. Thank you.
Thank you, Akshaya. I think that was a wonderful presentation given by her, and she could make you understand in a very clear way. I hope all of you have understood the topics that she has gone through. And today's class, let us begin with the next topic, which is Avogadro's law. Children, we were learning about Boyle's law and Charles' law. And I told you before, this pressure, volume, temperature are the most important variables. But all the three are governed by the most important thing, which is the number of molecules, which we'll be seeing now. Volume and number of molecules. What is the relationship between volume and the number of molecules? Now let us consider a cylinder. We're going to have a cylinder which has got gas filled in it, which is kept at an atmospheric pressure of 1 and at a temperature of 300 Kelvin. Over a period of time, if I am going to decrease my pressure and increase my temperature, please remember, I am going to decrease the pressure and increase the temperature, what will happen to my volume? So when I am going to decrease the pressure, what will my volume be? As we have studied in Boyle's law, volume is inversely proportional to pressure. So if my pressure is going to decrease, my volume will increase. And if I am going to increase my pressure, the volume will decrease. And what is about temperature? In Charles' law, we have learnt that volume and temperature are directly proportional. When you heat it, volume becomes more. When I cool it, volume becomes less. So what do we understand? If I am going to decrease the pressure and increase the temperature, the volume will increase. Okay. Now the volume has increased only with these two conditions. If I decrease my pressure and increase the temperature, I can change my volume. But assume there is a situation where I am going to keep my temperature and pressure as constant, that I don't change it. It is only 1 atmospheric pressure and 300 Kelvin. I am not going to change my pressure and temperature. How can I increase the volume? I have to make sure that my volume is increasing, but I am going to keep these two variables as constant. So what is the only way of increasing the volume? Yes, when I am going to increase the number of molecules. If I am going to increase the number of molecules which are present in the cylinder, when I am going to increase that, the volume also increases. When I am going to decrease the number of molecules, the volume also decreases. I think you are able to follow, children. That is the relation between volume and number of molecules. When the volume increases, number of molecules increases, or when I say when the number of molecule decreases, the volume decreases. So hence we come to a conclusion that volume is directly proportional to number of molecules, or we can say V is proportional to N, keeping our temperature and pressure constant. This statement we call it as Avogadro's law. So what does Avogadro law states that at constant temperature and pressure, the volume of one mass of a gas will be directly proportional to the number of molecules. So V will be proportional to N. So this is called as Avogadro's law. So children, Boyle's law, Charles' law, Avogadro's law. All these three are very important as like exam, that is board exam is concerned, because it is a definite question for us. Examples will be given to us where we need to find out which law comes in that, and you should write the statement without changing the words, and also the expression is required. I hope you are able to follow Avogadro's law. Now we are going to study about number of atoms, relative mass, and coming to GAM. Okay. So now we are going to learn about relative atomic mass. Now we have been learning about atomic mass, molecular mass, and all those steps. We know what is an atomic mass, because we know we write the atomic number and the double of it will be the atomic mass. Right. See, you used to write when you were in 9th standard, right, the electronic configuration, and when you write any element, say for example X, having atomic number 3, you write 6 as its mass number, right? So this atomic number or mass number, how do we get it? Because we know there are protons and neutrons present inside the nucleus, and there are electrons which are revolving outside the nucleus in a circular orbits. Now why we are going to study relative atomic mass? Because when we carry out experiments, we should definitely know what is the atomic mass of each element. So now, how to calculate the atomic mass? What do you mean by relative atomic mass? When I say relative, something that is closely subjected to that particular substance. Now what happens here? Now how do you calculate the mass of vegetables or fruits? Now we know, we go to a market, you have that weighing balance. You have seen they keep the 1 kg stone or 2 kg stone on one side of the balance, and they put the vegetables here. So when it reaches equilibrium, when the needle reaches equilibrium, they say this is equal to 1 kg or this is equal to 2 kgs. Am I right, children? So this is how we used to calculate the mass of vegetables or fruits. Now this 1 kg stone is called as a standard unit. So if I am going to weigh carrot for 1 kg, will I be using this 1 kg stone only to use carrot? No. So that will be my standard unit, which will be used for calculating any vegetable, right? It can be beetroot, it can be onion, or it can be potato, tomato, any vegetable. So that 1 kg stone is called as a standard unit. And the mass of the vegetable is relative to that particular 1 kg stone. It is related because after putting that 1 kg stone only, I came to know that these are my 1 kg vegetable. This much stuff, quantity is my 1 kg vegetable. Now, can we measure the mass of a single atom? We know there are so many atoms, carbon atom, nitrogen atom, sodium atom, oxygen atom. Will we be able to use the same balance to measure our mass of one atom? No, it is impossible because atoms are very small. Atoms are very small. So how can I measure it? Now to measure that, we are going to consider one carbon atom. When I say C12, why do we say carbon 12, carbon 12, carbon 12? Because the mass of carbon is 12. Mass of carbon is 12 units. So we mention that as C12. How it became 12? Because it has 6 protons and 6 neutrons in its nucleus. The nucleus contains 6 protons and 6 neutrons. So when you add, sum up, you get 12, which is the atomic mass of carbon. So you say C12. Now the same balance I am going to take. You know how a balance will look? This is how a balance will be. You have a needle here. Assume that I have C12 here and I am going to have C12 here. On both the sides I am going to have my carbon 12. What will it be balanced or not? Yes, it will be balanced. It has already reached the equilibrium because both the sides I have carbon 12. So definitely it has reached equilibrium. But if I am going to cut my carbon 12, one single carbon 12 into 12 units. So how that will happen? Assume I have like this. In this I put carbon 12. One carbon 12, and in this I am going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I am going to put 12 units of carbon atom, or I will say 12 parts. I am going to cut a single atom into 12 parts. 12 parts I am going to make it, and I am going to put it on the other side. One side I have carbon 12, the other side I have 12 units, 12 parts of carbon. So what will the balance be? Will the balance be balanced now? Right? Yes. Still again it will be in equilibrium because each carbon has got 12 units of carbon atoms in it. So definitely it will be balanced. So here, just like my 1 kg stone, I will take 12 units of carbon as a standard unit. My 12 units of carbon will be my standard unit. So, single carbon atom will be 12 units, or I can say mass of one carbon atom is equal to 12 units. That's why we put always C12. C12 we always put because mass of single carbon atom is equal to 12 units. Now, with this, how can I calculate the mass of other atoms? Like when I say sodium, or when I say oxygen, when I say nitrogen. So now we will see how can we calculate the mass of other atoms. I told you for carbon it is one carbon atom is equal to 12 units, and we will see how can we calculate for other atoms. When you consider oxygen atom one side when you put it in a balance, the other side what we will do, we will put 12 units of carbon. So one side I have oxygen, the other side I have 12 units. But what happens? Oxygen is still heavier, so it will just come down. How can I make it balance? I should add some more units on my other side. So what I do? I put 4 more units on my right side. When I put 4 more units, the balance has reached the equilibrium. So we say single oxygen atom will have 16 units of carbon. So all the masses we will be calculating with respect to carbon atom. So single oxygen atom contains 16 units of carbon. Single sodium atom will contain 23 units of carbon. 23 is the atomic mass. How did we get it? Sodium on one side and the other side we added 23 parts of carbon. So that is equal to 23 units of carbon. When I say nitrogen atom, it becomes 14 units of carbon. Now when I write units, and we should know the atomic mass. Now what will be the unit that we can write for this relative atomic mass? For that we have this atomic mass unit, which we call it as AMU. Mass of single carbon is equal to 12 units. That is what we learned now. So when I am going to divide my carbon atom, single carbon atom into 12 parts, out of the 12 part, if I take one part out of my 12 units, that is 12 parts, when I take one out of 12 apples, when I am going to take one apple, that will become 1 by 12. So 1 AMU, one part is called as 1 AMU, 1 atomic mass unit. So 1 atomic mass unit will be equal to 1 by 12th of my carbon atom. I repeat children, 1 atomic mass unit will be equal to 1 by 12th of carbon atom. As we have already learnt, kg will be the standard unit of mass. mass, because we say what is your weight or what is the mass of this. We say 12 kgs or 100 kgs. So kg will be the standard unit of mass. AMU, atomic mass unit, will be the standard unit of atomic mass. So when I am writing carbon, I write 12 AMU. Now we are writing 12U, which is nothing but unit mass. Okay. So when I am coming here for oxygen, instead of writing 16 units of carbon, we write 16 AMU, because this AMU is nothing but 1/12 of carbon atom. So we write 16 AMU, and for nitrogen it is 14 AMU. So once we have learned this relative atomic mass, now you had got an idea what is relative atomic mass. We'll be now learning about the number of atoms, where we have a big role of Avogadro's number. This Avogadro number plays a very important role in the whole chemistry. So we are going to learn. We will begin with a small story of Avogadro again. You might be thinking why teacher is always narrating stories. But you know, when we say in the form of story, we never forget it. Right? So now we will learn about Avogadro number and also about number of atoms in each element. Okay, now we are going to start with our Avogadro number. Now in chemistry, you will find these two terms, that is mole and Avogadro. 1 mole, 2 moles, 3 moles, and also Avogadro number, very commonly repeated right from your 10th standard. Because this is just a basic for calculating the number of atoms present in any substance. Okay. Now I told you I'll be telling you a story. So let me just tell a story. Avogadro was a scientist, and what he did is, he took this 1 mole of carbon 12. 1 mole of carbon 12 he took, and he went into a room and he locked himself. He went into a room with 1 mole of carbon 12 and then he locked himself. What was his duty? He wanted to count the number of atoms that are present in C12. He wanted to count how many atoms are present in C12. So he was been counting for years and years and years. Say after 500 years, nice story, no? After 500 years, he came to know that carbon 12 has got 6.022 into 10 raised to 23 atoms. How much? 6.022 into 10 raised to 23 atoms. That is what his conclusion was. See, I'll tell you children, it is very difficult to calculate because these are subatomic particles. Right? Atoms actually they are very small. It is impossible for us to calculate the number of atoms present in any element. So, this was made as a standard number. That is 1 mole of any substance. 1 mole of any substance will contain 6.022 into 10 raised to 23. That was his conclusion. So he derived and he said that, say carbon has got 12 grams as its atomic mass, will contain 6.022 into 10 raised to 23 carbon atoms. Like I'll tell you, before getting into the mole concept, when I say 1 dozen, it makes sense of 12 units. Am I right, children? 1 dozen is equal to 12 units. When I say 1 pair is equal to 2 units. 1 pair makes 2 numbers and 1 dozen makes 12 numbers. So when we take 1 dozen eggs, it means 12 eggs are present. 1 dozen pencils, 12 pencils are present. Similarly, in chemistry, we use 1 mole. So when I say 1 mole of carbon atom, when I say 1 mole of carbon atom, it contains 6.022 into 10 raised to 23 carbon atoms. I repeat, when I say 1 mole of carbon atom, it is equal to 6.022 into 10 raised to 23 carbon atoms. Now let us take water. When I take 1 mole of water, it contains 6.022 into 10 raised to 23 water molecules. So whether it is going to be carbon or it is going to be water, it is going to be hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, sulfur, sugar, any substance that I take, 1 mole of any substance will contain 6.022 into 10 raised to 23, which is called as Avogadro number, and it is denoted as Na. We denote this as Na. This we call it as Avogadro number. So you will be using this very often now in your second chapter. Now whatever we are going to study now, we will be using this very often. So children, as of like today's class, it is over, and I hope you all have understood what do you mean by relative atomic mass, and we also learned about Avogadro's law and what is Avogadro number and how to relate that with 1 mole of any substance. So the next class we will be learning about number of atoms, GAM, GMM, and also we will learn about the mole concept in detail. So we have just a few more topics to go. So stay safe, stay healthy. Until then, see you in the next class. Take care. Bye.